founder of Walnut Street Labs, but really to kind of a ringleader. There's lots of people who have made this happen. The lab has a inchoate mission to be a hub of innovators and entrepreneurs, just to get people talking, because out here in the suburbs there aren't as many opportunities to do that, and so far it's just been kind of a resounding success. I kind of just met John through sharing the news about the space, and I mean, I think I pretty much met everybody here just in the greater conversation around innovation. It is two parts. One part is co-working, so you come, you rent a desk, get access to being here. It's better in some cases than being at Starbucks. The other side of it is an incubator, and we had the concept scheduled for the middle of the year, but honestly somebody walked in with a great idea and we decided, well, let's incubate this idea with the folks who are in the space, who have certain expertise in the different parts of the startup life cycle. So that's been going well. This is the third meeting of our startup meetup, which is every Tuesday morning from 9 to 10. And the whole point of this is to bring somebody out to speak in some way connected to the startup area. So it can be someone who's done a startup, someone who advises startups, someone who just is adding value to the conversation. The first week we had Kareem Hussein, who's a local attorney and an advisor to the lab, talking about how to set up a business, the different options and some of the pitfalls. Second week we had Bob Fedor from SCORE, which is an SBA program. He talked about the services that they offer, free services. And this week we have John Fisher from Brandywine Photonics. I'll give him a little intro in a second. Next week we have Michael Raber he's with Artisan right now, and he actually lives 2 blocks away. Michael was with Nokia for a long time, left, went through Dream Adventures in Philly, an incubator, came out the other end with UX Flip, sold that to Artisan. It became their core technology. It's A/B testing for iOS development. He's the director of innovation there, and he's also thinking of doing a little bit of an iOS boot camp for non-developers. After that, we have the CEO of Viewer.com, which is a video platform that lets people do pay-per-view. So load up your stuff, allow people to charge people whatever you want for access to your content. So that's kind of innovative. He's gone through, I think he went through an incubator as well and got some startup funding. So all these people just kind of showed up, and they have interesting stories, so why not share them? We've been trying to cover all of these with video, and that's May, and Michael, and Brad's going to be helping us too. Brad's an intern from Westchester University, just started. So people can access resources even if they missed the presentation. And the meetup, this event is co-sponsored with Westchester University's Cottrell Center for Entrepreneurship, and Monica Zimmerman runs that, so thank you, Monica. I'm a Westchester University graduate, and I really like Westchester, so it's always been part of my mission to give back or work with the university, and that's been going really well. And so over to John for a second, or for the next hour. John's in town, and I bumped into him, I don't know, maybe on Twitter?
Oh, it's Twitter.
And then I checked out his site, and I thought, this guy's pretty interesting, so I just cold called him through LinkedIn. And I think the next day, we were meeting here at 7, and it was snowing, and I was a couple of minutes late, and I thought, well, he either came and left, or I'm late, and he thinks I'm a schmuck. And then 2 hours later, he came back, and we had a great conversation. And it turns out that even high-tech hardware that ends up on space stations the journey to that is pretty similar to any journey building a business, whether it's a startup or a consumer product. And the fact that you've stuck it out in Westchester when all of your colleagues are either in Southern California or Boulder is interesting as well. And so I asked John to come and share his story because it's intriguing. And so he's going to get into that in a minute. And the format is really 10 to 15 minutes of story time, and but feel free to interrupt. But then really a discussion for the remainder of the time. So any questions or comments? All right, John, share your story.
Well, thank you very much, Chris. I'm really excited about Walnut Street. It's especially I live on Walnut Street, live right on South Walnut, and it's been almost 15 years ago to today where I started my business, corner of North Walnut and Chestnut, right across from the YMCA, next door to Arthur Hall Insurance. So I don't have far to go from the start to where I am at now. So I'd like to ask you a question. Have you ever really thought what it would be like to chase after your big dream? Not the small ones, but the really big one. Not, a car with higher gas mileage, but that which is the life you've always sought. Well, 15 years ago, I did just that. I left a nice job as a U.S. government employee, set for life, retirement, benefits plan, and decided to move back home. I love Westchester. When I came back, I grew up in southern Chester County in Oxford, Pennsylvania, and came back for a Halloween parade. I was like, I love this town. How do I make my work work for the life I want? I chose the life, I created the job to make it happen. So I started my company and put out a shingle and called up some old bosses and some new clients, and started the first chapter of my journey, a 15-year journey as an entrepreneur, which was consulting. Consulting is a great place to start because it was fairly straightforward. I didn't need a line of credit or a legal team or a marketing team. Just called up a few people, and old government workers never die, they just come back as contractors. So I got on one satellite contract with the Naval Research Labs, my former employer, and then on a contract with a German company, which was making automation equipment. It was then subcontracted by a Finnish company. So you find out that's one of the, people ask me, where do you look? One is look for the people that already know you and that they trust you. Second place to look is look where there isn't your skill around. The international market is huge right now, and there's huge need for especially the American small businesses, which have a great reputation for entrepreneurship. We have a definite advantage over Germany in that respect. So some of the stories that really excited me, using my education, had a bachelor's degree and master's degree from Penn State in electrical engineering. So I put in my time. You have to put in the hard work. And I had a dream. My dream was to be like Jacques Cousteau. I watched Jacques Cousteau and Carl Sagan growing up. I was like, I want a little bit of that. I want to be a little bit like Doctor Who and see new and interesting things. No, the Tom Baker Doctor Who with the gray star. I love the gray star. So, and that was a little bit like what my the wonder years. 1999, top of the tech bubble, going to Germany and going through 140 miles an hour on the Autobahn with a new customer. And she did slow down to 100 miles an hour when it started to rain. So it was pretty, but those types of experiences were wonderful. And I didn't realize that I was building the first foundations. I'll be talking about the building a bridge. And trying to achieve your dreams is often like building a bridge, as well as building a company. And first is having that idea or technology or that special sauce that people want. So then after that, I did a little bit of consulting in Finland. It's good to really know your customers. I would call it getting naked with your customers in a way. Well, if you know Finland, the sauna culture, and that's what you do. And although the experience was a little bit different, because I remember one time we had, great sauna, went to the pool, everyone took a dip, got out of the pool, and then went back a little bit later. I didn't realize that that it was a co-ed area of the sauna room. It's like, oh my god, did I commit some faux pas there? But it was just a great time. And then the tech bubble burst. So another lesson for entrepreneurs today is it's not always the hot stuff. We're coming up in a great economy now, but you can get hit pretty hard. And my mother asked me, so John, are you going to go back to work at a real job? I said, get behind me, Satan. This is where I'm meant to be. I think I've been corrupted. I can't work for someone else anymore, no matter what. So I was building that first elements of the bridge, that content, that's something that unique experience that helped me be valuable to other people. Well, decided to go out and sell myself, went to a trade show, went to all the booths where I knew people, and was somehow able to convince the customer that I could build a product for them, a custom product. And if the analogy I would use is instead of building a full bridge, my consulting experience was like a canoe, whereas shuttling one person at a time. Well, building custom products is like having a ferry, where you have a lot more weight behind you. And developing these first custom products, it was an amazing experience in itself, but it was also scary, because I had to learn about cash flow projections. I did not understand cash flow at the time. And I remember looking at the customer and saying, okay, I built a product, and they wanted to order more, and my supply chain got disrupted. People that were building my critical components, and to show you what it looks like, this is an example product, an imaging spectrometer. This is actually a copy of the GeoCape Airborne simulator. It has a diffraction grating and slit, and disperses an image into its representative spectrum. Very high quality, high performance airborne imaging systems. But how will I ever do it if I win it? So we actually won it, and it was a $3.8 million program. Pretty good for a one-person shop. And then at the same time won a contract for a cloud imager to fly in NASA's U-2 airplane. NASA, along with the Air Force, has U-2s, and they fly up to 70,000 feet, and they wanted to look at the clouds, the color of the clouds. I won that contract too, and I thought, wow, this is great. I have multiple contracts, and then I went after a couple of other smaller ones. One, I was contacted by the Indian Space Agency, so I was able to land that contract. My price was right, and then another one with the University of New South Wales to look at the Great Barrier Reefs and to image the Great Barrier Reefs and look at the health of the reefs. This was exactly what I wanted to do with my life. Ever since looking at Jacques Cousteau and really like, wow, this is it. And that leads to the next chapter. Cash flow difficulties. I'd taken on too much. The submarine job was great because it was time and material. Perfect. I just charged to it, had my pass through, and life was golden. But I thought I could sort of gather the other contracts and keep the price reasonable, and then they diverged. Now that leads to the middle section of the bridge, which is execution and cash flow. One direction goes execution, delivering that product or service, and the other direction comes cash. Anyone can make, anyone can make a profit, on paper. But if the money isn't there in time, you cross what's called the line of death, which is you don't have enough money to pay your subcontractors, so they don't deliver you the bill of materials you need to get the money to pay them. So that was a big learning experience. And I call this the sharks underneath the bridge. Besides cash flow, was technical difficulties. We were a year and a half late So I had to float my labor. I hired 3 other people by that time, and to float them through a difficult time. That's tough. Oh, then throw in just the other challenging aspect was I got diagnosed with cancer. So I had thyroid cancer, I had a second baby on the way, and my vendors were screaming, "Where's our money? We're going to go after you." So here is something I thought was a really great experience, great opportunities. You know, working with the Indian Space Agency and NASA and the Navy and all these jobs, but I wasn't really fully prepared to tackle the challenges before me. But thankfully, I'd say one of the greatest aspects of building that on-ramp up into your bridge is your team. When you're a consultant in a solo shop and you're low overhead, hey, you can do it yourself. But you have things like, you know, a legal person to help you with contracts, and great technical effort, and then a technician to execute upon it. And then the willingness and the challenge and the guts to lay someone off or fire them if they're not executing, even if they're a friend. I had to do that because it's not a game anymore. When it comes time, are you going to make your mortgage payment? You got some serious health issues, and you're trying to make it. You have to say, man, you got to man up, or you're gone. You're out of here. So those are the tough things that on the execution side. And the good news is, camp's for free now for a year, and my son's thriving, 1.5 old, daughter's 3. And we delivered on the Indian contract, we delivered on the NASA contract, negotiated with vendors, new deals, and now we're really starting that 3rd phase of the bridge. And that's knowing your customer. It should have probably been first and foremost, but now we're getting into the marketing and sales. No one will really come to you if they don't know you exist. Getting out on the internet on a really key and clear message. Getting your story out there. Getting the content out. Getting that jab, jab, jab right hook. Provide value, provide value, provide value, and why don't you buy something from me? Getting the sales. Relationships are so important with the person. Not some nebulous executive, or not some consumer market, but really the people. Know the people that are buying your product and service. And then getting that final execution, whatever that may be. It may be a contract, a purchase order, a tool for accepting credit cards on your website. Getting that, you can't ignore the transaction. The transaction matters. So those are the 3 chapters I had in my 15-year experience. Consulting, one-off production, and then getting a system of all the pieces in place between business side, engineering side, supply chain, sales and marketing. So, and those 3 pieces are the key to building a bridge. From the person, you, your team, resources that you build all together to execute on that contract. The execution is a huge part. Even if you have all the pieces and you put that sign, open for business, making it actually happen is much harder than you could ever imagine. And then your customer. Know Bob's children's names. Know what keeps them up at night. Know what their biggest dreams are. That way they will discard whoever they're using, whatever ideas they have, and go with you. And getting to know them, getting to know their contracting officer or their buyer, and then putting the pieces together. Whether it's going on to the space station, during this time, we did sell product to the Navy, and right now we are the only imaging system, actually hyperspectral imaging system on the International Space Station. Hyperspectral Airborne hyperspectral imaging coastal observer. We have 3 space programs that are about to start. And we're looking for the next chapter. And the next chapter is where I don't need to be in day-to-day operations. Because there may be a day where I won't be able to. Whether it's a sick kid, or health illness, or just, I want to take 6 months off to go to South Africa. That's the ultimate objective. So if you think you're building a bridge, the one question I ask for those who are starting up, what bridge are you building? You're no longer an engineer, you're no longer a software developer. As soon as you start a business, you're no longer a technician. You are building a bridge to your customers. Having cash flow come one way, and product and service go the other. I've talked to 3 people this week, all the way from someone working at Siemens to a graphic artist. And what I've found is, like myself, I thought I was building a bridge. Really, it was just a ferry service. One at a time, one customer at a time. And guess what happens when you're no longer piloting your ferry? It starts to go over the falls. Getting a sustainable bridge for both your business and hopefully for your life to reach the dreams that you want, I think is possible for anyone. It's just a matter of making that sail and jumping in. That's all I have.
All right. Well, like I said, we can open it up to Q&A, ask kind of questions, and I'll sit up here and that way you can field some of them. Does anyone have a question to start, Monica?
I once read a story about, I think his name is Greg Gianforte, and he moved to Montana. He liked the environment there, right? And he bought a ranch, he had cashed out of the business, and he decided he was bored, he wanted to go back to work. And so he was in the IT area. And so he decided that he was going to develop some software, and he started selling before it was actually developed. And he got a client, and then he built it around the client's needs. And that seemed a little scary of an idea to me, in that, you know, the product wasn't finished. It wasn't even in beta. And I heard some of the similar kind of things that you were talking about. Like, how do you know when it's okay to go out there and start?
I would say, to use the ferry analogy, sometimes it's actually good to have ferries. So those I call early user prototypes. It's great, you know, lean startup approach. Where, and I think the key is to talk to your customer and be honest. Say, you know, this is going to be pretty bad, pretty buggy when this first release. But have their expectations at that level. That's when you know. It's if you get the customers buying into, they're accepting of that. And then to make the jump to the full production is when you have, you know, the cash flow behind you. You have your systems in place. You're never going to, you know, get everything right. But to ramp up 110 to 100 to 1,000.
I think it's also exciting for a customer to be that first person helping solve what vertical, and they're getting, or maybe it's the way you position it, I'm coming here, I want you to help me solve this problem, and you're going to be the first to benefit from it, so take the warts and ugly spots, but we'll get there together. That's something that I've noticed. Tim?
Yeah, I guess just backing up to the prototype phase. So you just started building these out of your house, essentially, or?
I designed them. Mm-hmm. I had a shop that makes them to print.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Although now we're insourcing more.
Oh, okay.
And we're going through some pains because
yeah.
they don't like the insourcing. They don't like me taking all my work out.
Oh yeah.
But, you know, sort of convincing them that as we grow, you know, they'll still get more,
Mm-hmm.
but they won't get everything.
Yeah, I see.
Oh, so that was key though to getting into the market. You had a shop that could take your designs and create them, and then you could go sell them. So that, I mean, with 3D printing now, you can kind of extrapolate that even consumer goods. If you have the concept, you don't need to machine shop it from zero.
Yeah, I didn't fabricate this unit. And they didn't fabricate all the parts either.
Yeah.
They went to a machine shop, they went to analyzing shop. But there's risks there's quality risks. The reason I'm insourcing now is for support. I can't support something which I don't have excess inventory.
Yeah.
Is your background like physics?
Electrical engineering.
Electrical engineering. And did you see a specific need in imaging? Or was it based on your background, or was it based on a need you saw to go in the direction of imaging?
I would say I did what I liked and enjoyed. I liked lasers, and it's cool, you know, and it's like I have the talent to do this, a little bit geeky. And then I just opened a shop. I said, hey, I need another consultant. I could be a consultant. He can do it, I can do it. So it's really more about, I didn't even think of myself as an entrepreneur at the time, in 1999. I was just, I like living here, I can make the picture.
I think when we talked that first time, you brought up that Wayne Gretzky quote, "Skate to the puck." Like, if you see some trend going, you know, go there. But that's almost a form of delusion or insanity too. Sometimes it's an instinct, but it's really a gut call or hard to be. It's not an engineering or a computation. It's a jump out of a plane kind of thing. You hope that it all supports you.
Yeah. Or there's the, where you're being flogged around the face and head, and you realize you need to make the change. And one of those was we ordered a detector from a very reputable organization, one that's been around for 100 years, founded by Thomas Edison. And we thought we'd get a detector from them, and it would work perfectly, and it was our biggest nightmare. So we decided to make our own image sensors, starting with the silicon, and fabricating them from the ground up.
How did you make inroads with some of these customers? Some of these customers, their needs are surrounded with special access programs and other sorts of things that they might not even be forthcoming with what their needs are. How do you make inroads? How do you communicate what your capabilities are to them when they might not even be forthcoming with what their needs are?
That's a good question. One is, I say there's 3 roads. One is direct access. I meet someone at a trade show, or they come to my booth. The other is marketing. They look for exactly what they want. Google it and come to our website. Another is referrals. Some of our best leads are referrals. I've got a referral. An Indian contract was through NASA. They saw NASA's stuff I built for them, and they referred. Others are publications. Conference publications I've found are worth $1 million in sales for my business. So between those mix, the people will find you out if they have something that they can't find elsewhere.
One additional client type or prospect type is something I just conceptualized recently is you're building something that maybe nobody even thinks about, maybe it's a little ahead of its time, so you take your club and you go find the one that fits it, that should be using it, and then tell them you have to be using this. And I've had some success with just writing very succinct emails like, you need to do this with me. And sometimes people like to be dragged into the future because they're not going to go there with it on their own because they've got their momentum. So all the people who could possibly buy this. Have you just ever gotten sick and tired of not being able to get someplace and you just pick up the phone and go right in and say, you should be using my product?
I've done some cold calling, and it's pretty challenging. I haven't gotten the response I'd like. When I started out, there was probably 3 or 4 companies that did hyperspectral imaging. Believe it or not, there's now 53. So every niche eventually gets filled.
How many are US based?
Probably 40 of them.
Before we go on, we're a small group and we're mostly local, so if you could introduce yourself, because I know, Chris, you have some background in this?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's kind of awesome.
All right, cool, that was worthwhile. I think back to question and answers. Anybody have an additional question? I can start things back up. One of the things that you said earlier about your network, you moved away and then you kind of came back. I had a similar experience. I moved to California and I realized, wow, a network is critically important if you want to, especially if you want to go and do your own thing. Those are going to be the people that you rely on. And in retrospect, I don't think college education really points that out in any way, but you should be building it within at that time, or you should always be building it. It's somehow intuitive, but not. Do you want to talk a little bit more about maybe how some critical relationships really got you to where you are, or anything related to that?
Sure. What I found is some of the bigger, my first satellite program, it's great because there was 50 people in a room and did big critical design reviews. And I got to learn by when people give their presentations who is good and who you wouldn't even want to walk your dog. So and those, I developed a rapport with those. So one was the mirror vendor, the guy that would make the mirrors. He made one of his subcontractors. I was able to get to work for us and build these units. Always proper etiquette. If you meet someone and use their subcontractors, ask them first. You don't want to, burn bridges. So that was one. Another was my current cryomechanical engineer. There's such a thing as someone who just specializes in very cold things. Met him through someone I met at a conference. The guy that I met at the conference worked out in Hawaii, at University of Hawaii, and we just got to talking. Kept up a relationship over the years, and then I called him up and say, hey, do you know any cryomechanical engineers? And he goes, I know the person just for you.
Thanks, that. I have another question based on that. So I assume you have to design some of these imaging systems to work in extreme cold,
Yes.
or extreme temperatures, I should say, or is that by design, or is that because they're exposed, at 70,000 feet?
There's just on the technical side, there's environmental, so you need to, shock, vibe, thermal, shock, vibration, and thermal constraints. And there's also, for thermal imaging, to cryogenic temperatures, in order that you're not seeing the lens and the noise associated with it, but your target of interest.
Oh, great. So it's really both.
Some of the stuff is amazingly hard, and it helps to hire people which are much smarter than you.
Yeah. I mean, that's because it just seems like there's so many different things that you need to consider with really specialized systems like that. So you find yourself bringing a lot of those people in.
Yeah. And you get your network. I met another guy who's making our detectors at a design review. And design reviews are great because people put their stuff out there and you say, oh, that guy's he's really sharp. It's not just the German accent. So he's been working 3 years on our first wafers, and we just got them in. So we'll be building our own cameras from the silicon on up, which is quite exciting.
Great.
How big is your team now, I guess, including some contractors that you work with? How many people did you work with to produce something like that?
Well, we have three, including myself, 3 full-time engineers, then a part-time bookkeeper, a marketing person, business development person, and then the layer of insurance, legal, group health insurance, IP law, export law. I found it's better to get people that don't have abroad, especially, but get someone for 4 hours, and that's what they do for their life is export law. or that's something they do. They're just an IP attorney. It's better getting them for 4 hours than someone, general lawyer, for 40. And then production, I have 2 mechanical shops. I probably know every optics shop in the country. So we send out quotes to 5 of them. We're still really relying on our electronics subcontractor. So we're going to hire someone to just manage them, who's worked up through the ranks. Fortunate enough, he's just sold his company for $10 million 2 years ago, 2 years ago. Worked for them, for the bigger company, and then they laid him off.
That's really kind of been in the news a lot because of all the NSA revelations. Well, DuckDuckGo and Gabriel,
What does it do?
CEO. Oh yeah, they're I guess anonymous searching is really what they're pushing for. So like if you do a search on, everything's tracked. If you search on Google or even Bing or Yahoo. So their whole thing is they kind of act like a middleman so that your searches don't get tracked, if that makes sense. So there's kind of been this niche that's been created because of these NSA, all the tracking and everything that's going on with that. So he's a pretty prominent, I guess kind of startup leader in this area, and he talks a lot, or he's kind of a big proponent of like InBat hiring. So kind of bring people into on like a test basis to see, how they perform, and then or maybe have them contribute, maybe build like an open source project and have them contribute in some way, and then take the best and the brightest people from that program and then hire them instead of going on LinkedIn and submitting and just collecting resumes on there and then and going that route.
It's actually 1099 status for 3 to 6 months and then hire. So
I've done that. I've done the 1099s, and a lot of times, even then you can make mistakes. Because you get the entrepreneur's fog because you're focused on this and you're not seeing some critical issue.
I see.
For example, I consider there's 3 classes of employees. One that do most of what you told them, except for the really important things that could really screw the company. Then there's the ones that are bright and that do exactly what you're told. You need to avoid those as well. And then there's the people that really act like, they're in it. They're hearts in it. They will do it just because it's who they are, their work ethic. They love creating. They will stick through it, no matter what with you.
And I guess then they're more likely to help you solve the really tough problems because they're willing to go out on a limb a little bit rather than the employees that might do everything that they're told, but at the end of the day, they're only going to do what you tell them to do, right?
Yeah, and the problem, if you have to be there to set most of the work, that's what school sometimes doesn't really teach you well because they teach you how to answer every question right. Let's say you take a test, you get 100, you answer every question. In the real world, you don't get a pass if you do that.
Yeah.
In the real world, a more similar analogy is you have to go in there and then you take the teacher says, well, we want you to make up the test. That's what work life is about. And I encourage everyone to start their own business at some point because they're the best workers. By far, the people I've hired the best hires have ran their own shop at least for some time.
Solution creators.
Yeah, they figure out what the most important question is, and then they're in it. Their hearts in it.
Yeah, the concept of design thinking is the label I see on that. What you just said, Jim, and the Stanford Design School has been around for a while and is built on that thinking. And I don't see a lot of schools embracing that. It's super multidisciplinary and puts a lot of that responsibility on the student. But ultimately, that's what you would want to see schools kind of going that route. And there's a book that I've been reading called Creative Confidence, written by the guys who started the Stanford Design School, and they run IDEO. It's a problem-solving company. They create consumer stuff, apps, stuff for clean water. It's really a mindset to observe the world and see friction points and to solve them. And one thing that I see is you leave your job or you go into entrepreneurship and you're in this area, but in your head you're like bouncing all over the place, and you feel like this pressure to say I'm just technology or I'm just hardware that's in space, and you want to squash that to say focus. But at a higher level, on thoughts of creativity, I feel like you have to indulge all those ideas. You can put them away, but you can't. A true problem solver isn't in one domain necessarily. Do you have wild thoughts outside of your domain, and how do you deal with rampant problem solving or creativity?
ADD, where, in a way, you need to build the whole bridge. Put in your mind a bridge, let's say the Verrazano Narrows Bridge, that example, where they made what looked to be the perfect bridge. But when the winds came, it resonated and it fell into the, so that's the example of, you need to focus on the structure of your bridge, your business. And in that case, I will have great ideas. I keep my field notes, write the crazy idea in your field notes book or your capture on your mobile device. And then I have an hour every morning where I wrote those down, and then I say I'm going to go to work and focus on the fire that I need to put out today. What do I need to do today? Get that legal form out, get that purchase order out, respond to that quotation. So I've sort of a regimented time.
Yeah, that's a good process.
By writing it out in your field notes or whatever you use, you can, you're not worried about losing it. I got to keep sure. Yeah. But you have to build on each side of the bridge. You need to build, that product or service that you can deliver, and you need to execute upon it. And you don't want to build a bridge to nowhere, which is the great thing, it's perfect, the team, the resources, you got the new desk, the new office furniture, a great location, and you're writing this code up and it's going online, and then you realize no one really cares what you want because you never asked them.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's 10. Why don't we do a question or two more if there is, or we can wrap it up. And John was nice enough to bring some food.
I have a curious question. How long after you left your original job, how long did it take you to start probably making a profit? And did you at any time think that it may not work?
6 months ago.
Really? Oh, jeez. No, I mean, you have to start out. In other words, you're leaving a job that you were getting paid right.
Yeah, consulting, I took off right away. It was a tech bubble. So it launched right away. It was great. It was a great time. But I say that here's where I've hit some. I lost $200,000 last year. This big hit for $2.2 million company.
Yeah.
It was when I underestimated the technology needed and what needed to be happening, and cost overruns. So sometimes even a mature company or someone who's been in a long time can make those big problems. Whether you're a roofer or you're a IT builder, you're putting up buying all new servers. Really, I say one of my key things one of my number one jobs is cash flow projections. If you can spend a half hour every day on cash flow projections, I really doubt whatever venture in fails.
Can you excuse me while I do that?
Well, I was just curious as far as you designed something you knew that's going to somebody needed. Where did you get the information of getting these parts made up for you? Did you have to do an awful lot of investigating for different areas, different companies that make these parts?
I've been in the business for a while, so I knew who the players were. I'd go to the big show, Photonics West, 1,000 companies. And I'd do that in a day. I'd be running through there, and I'd grab brochures. And, can you do this? Can you get this mirror flatness to this? But even then, I make mistakes. Our silver coatings, I found like they won't stand up to any atmosphere at all. It's a nitrogen person. So, yeah, you can. It takes a lot of hard work, and there's a lot of things that people don't see. I think one of my best advantages are work is my hobby. In other words, I love going to the beach and reading trade journals. It has to be that way for you because there's going to be that knowledge, that secret arcane hidden knowledge. And I'm really excited because right now I'm studying imaging from drones. We were building our first drone camera, and we're going to make a specific thing to make it not a toy, but science, portable science, taking the science out of the lab and into the field. So with one last note, you can follow me on Twitter at Airborne Science.
Great. Thank you, John. Thanks for coming and thanks for participating. We can hang out and continue to
Eat
chat.
fish off the bagels.
Have some bagels, locally produced.